Welcome back, everybody. We're now going to continue with another set of two speakers, and then after another set of two speakers, each from authors of the chapters in the book, The Future of Business. And these two speakers in this section are both looking at communications or marketing. The person speaking next is Yates Buckley, who has a distinguished history inside the mobile industry as founder of Disruptive Analysis. He doesn't take things for granted. He tends to ask the questions that nobody else thinks about, but which do need to be asked. So, Yates Buckley, over to you.
Thanks, David. There is a microphone. I don't think I need it. I'm going to talk about speaking and communication without the aid of this fantastic piece of technology we have here. So, phone calls. Someone said to me at a party not too long ago, the only people who phone me nowadays are my parents and people I don't want to talk to. Everyone else has a better way of getting in touch with me. And what I'm going to talk about is whether the phone call is dead or whether it can be resurrected and reinvented. And that's pretty important in terms of our personal usage, but it's also important from the point of view of the telephone and telecoms industry and businesses who are obviously communicating internally and then externally to their customers. Now, what this chart is an analysis of total number of phone call minutes made over a 5-year period change. It's the change of 2013 versus 2008. And places like India and China, there were lots of people who didn't have phones in 2008, and so clearly there was a pent-up demand for communication, and there's been sort of pretty good growth. But in markets like the UK, you're seeing year-on-year declines in the usage of the phone. This is combining mobile and fixed. So last year, it fell about 5%, and that's despite prices falling fast. We probably now, everyone in this room, or a good proportion of us, will have all-you-can-eat bundles of minutes on our phones. If someone gave you an extra 500 minutes a month, you wouldn't use them. In fact, you'd probably use less, because that's the trend. And there's a reason for this. What I'm doing now is what you could refer to as proxy phone, talking at close proximity. And there's a lot of things here, even leaving aside the visual and body language. We have a bunch of behaviours learned over the millennia about how we talk to each other in person. And it's a combination of ongoing conversations. We're able to sort of interrupt the flow for a bit and resume where we left off, manage multiple threads, recognise people, and we talk to different people in different ways as well. And what Alexander Graham Bell did was absolutely transformative and created the approximation of a spoken conversation but at a distance, telephone. And the numbers are amazing in terms of there are trillions of minutes of communications every year and large sums of money associated with this still, despite the chart that it's shown. There's probably about 4 billion regular users of phone calls and another 1 or 2 billion occasional users. And it was pretty good for the 19th century. But things have moved on, and now we increasingly find the phone call to be a bit clunky, rude, particularly if you get an unexpected phone call, especially from things like a withheld number. It's also very inflexible. So if you think about it, it's a bit weird that we use the same product and service for two CEOs negotiating a merger, or for two people to decide which pub to go to. There's no customization, there's no tuning, fine-tuning of the product. And there's a bunch of unnatural etiquette things that we have to get in the way of our conversations. The whole, hi, it's Dean Buckley speaking, hi, how are you? That is polite etiquette, and in some cases it's absolutely right, in other cases it gets in the way of our actual attempt to communicate and what we want to achieve. It's heavily regulated as well. And so what's happening now, if you like, communications overall, is we're moving towards a world where we pick the best tool for the job. We probably all have our own personal blend of apps that we use. Some are messaging, some are voice, some are video, and they're all fit to our requirements. Whether they're business related, that's Microsoft, what's Link now, Skype for Business, or personal ones like Instagram, where you send messages without speaking, but you imbue them with your sort of artistic credentials and creativity. And you also have things like Uber. Uber's interesting because Uber takes something we used to use the phone for, getting a cab, and now doing it in an app. And it's not because it's cheaper, it's because it's better. You get all the map of where the driver is and pricing and so on. What's happening now is we're moving on, and this goes across the board in communications, from just transmission of whether it's the spoken word or the written word, to a stage of like, how does that fit into a business process or a social life, which is what we see today. The next thing is, how do we make sense? How do we generate intention, purpose, human desirable results out of something which includes communication? And this is the big problem for the telecoms industry and also businesses using communications, how to sort of reinvent the phone call. I'm not going to go through all the technology, you'll be pleased to hear. If anyone is curious about any of this, we have machine learning, we'll touch on it in a minute. There's three things that are happening. Better user interaction, so we're reconstructing phone calls in different ways. It could be changing the way that we get attention, so rather than ringing the other person's phone, something which is a little bit more consensual, where you go via a messaging stage, and is now a good time for a call, no, give it 5 minutes. And so that's a slightly more polite, less intrusive way of communicating. It could be we go even further, and we customize bits of this application on the phone for the dial-up. So you can imagine two different situations: a business call from a bar, where you want to get rid of as much background noise as possible to concentrate on the conversation, or phoning a friend or family member from a beach, where actually the sound of the waves behind you adds to what you're trying to communicate. And so we might start to see much more subtle and nuanced versions of communication. Embedded communications and contextual ones I'll talk about next. But what we're looking at, again, is intention and purpose. And we boil it down. Communications, be it personal or business, is about either productivity, being well and healthy, or being safe. And that can include security and compliance in a business context as well. Embedded communications is happening already. You're starting to see voice and video creep into a lot of both the apps we use, there's some websites, and in fact there's going to be embedded communications in things as well. The one in the middle is interesting because it's not actually a phone call as such, it is communication. It's a music lesson where you're essentially embedding the audio into the website itself, along with payment, recommendations, and so on. And this thing is sort of bastard offspring of an iPad and Segway, which you can use for sort of remote telepresence, driving around the office, looking over your colleague's shoulders. None of this is new. This is a scene from 1890s Paris, a thing called the Théâtre-phone, which is a specific incarnation of the phone call used to allow people to listen to the opera from across town. So Apple might like to think we invented the music playing phone, but it didn't. This technology is really important. I'm not going to talk about it now. It's a core enabler of what I've been banging on about here. Communications in context is the next stage, where you're using data to make the phone call better. So this thing is an example of using an application inside the app. There's communication inside that app, which is a sort of a mix of a language exchange and Tinder, where you can sort of swipe left and right until you find someone who speaks the language you want to speak and is in the right time zone. And that's essentially bringing together the context and the communication. Sensors. You're starting to get people putting in a way of linking communications with the real world. So you could have a different approach to the application if the phone is on a table with a speaker on or up by your close proximity to your ear. And then you can actually do analytics. Some call centres will recognise if you're angry and put you through to a different agent who's more able to deal with you in a can't fashion it. And there's lots of other sources of analytics from business data sources and so on. And so we're going to move from this sort of undifferentiated world of sort of non-contextual communications to things which increasingly are magically personal. This is an example where, basically this is text, but you can do it potentially on audio as well. It'll analyse the person you're communicating with and tell you the best tone to take. Should you be aggressive? Or should you be more conciliatory to get what it is you're trying to do, whether it's close a sale or something like that? It analyses the words. So, very quick final example, just to make this a bit more real. Imagine you're a pet shop owner. You probably have a phone number on it at the moment. And you hope people call you. And when they do call you, it's going back to, it doesn't matter what they've been doing on the website, you're going back to square one of, hi, it's Dean Bubley, I want to buy a pet. No context. So maybe you put a button in the website saying, click here to call or speak to an agent. So someone clicks on that, and then you can use the power of context to find out that we think that this is probably someone who matches that LinkedIn profile. So your social match up the call. And you think, well, actually, what else do I know about him? I know what webpage he's been on. And so therefore, if it's my business, I'm looking to close sales, and I've maybe got 10 customers ringing me at the same time, but this guy, I know is the hot sales prospect. He's the right person at the right place, and I can basically, Mr. Delaney, I think I can guess what you're looking for. And what's more, once you've done that, you can even then further monetize it as a business through a marketing point of view and hand it off to your partner company who sells other related products. So I think this is going to happen in stages over the next 10 years. And this sort of thing is doable now. In 10 years, in the 5 to 10 year time frame, it gets much more deep and possibly creepy, where you're actually using voice communication to both measure and potentially alter things like moods and emotions as well. There's a lot of companies that are starting to try to understand how human behaviour relates to voice communication as well as video. That's my time up. Right.
Hold the questions for a moment. We're going to continue this session by coming to the presentation by Yates Buckley. Yates is founder of Unit 9, and Yates will be able to tell you what he's doing there. He is also a deep thinker and with lots of unusual points of view, which I think you'll find interesting.
So, hi, I'm Yates. I started a company some time ago that basically does advertising, and everybody hates advertising, and so this talk is about trying to think about the future of it and how to reconciliate the hatred we have with making it work. And so basically, I'm sitting in City Airport, and this is what I see. I see billboards and TV sets everywhere, the screens everywhere. And I know that in the next few years, this will multiply. There will be walls, visors, hats, shoes, chairs, all basically relying on trying to get information from me, and they all have different business models around, so there's a complex, rich ecosystem going on here. But the problem is that for them to function properly, they really need to get through layers of who you are. So you are made of different kinds of layers of information, like the detailed mental processes you go through when you're trying to find something on the web. You know, the way you would respond to someone naturally when they invite you somewhere, the way you know, some very deep things that have to do with the wiring of your brain. But then there's beliefs and personal information, what you consider personal, and then there's public information. In reality, you know, for them to do a good job, they would actually ideally have access to all of this information. There is this idea that came out in the 1985. Stuart Brand, a writer I quite admire, he was talking about that this information has a strange property. On one hand, it wants to be free, fluid, it wants to flow everywhere. It's very difficult to hold it in some container as information. At the same time, why would it flow unless it was expensive and valuable? So in other words, you love to duplicate that film and give it to your friend, but it's only if the film is good. So if the film isn't good, you wouldn't bother duplicating it. So there's this natural tension between the value of the information and and sort of the anti-value of the information. And this is like an ongoing battle. You'll see all the IP battles that are going on, why it's so difficult to do things in digital, is about this constant struggle between the free and the expensive. I want to introduce this idea of a Freexpensive, which is basically balancing the access to the information and versus the value. So So basically, access to information and the functional value. So here's sort of a criticism that, this hasn't worked at all. We've given everything away to Facebook. There's basically, this really doesn't have much evidence of having worked. But in reality, I think that there is a lot of opportunity in terms of contractual law, very basic things you can do. Like I could give you some personal ideas I have about what my favorite film types are, what my favorite, any certain kind of things. I could tell you, I could give you my fingerprints, for example, but if in return, you took responsibility for the information I gave you. And so this is my business idea as well, is that the information that we're giving away should not be part of a complex co-opted mechanism whereby 10 years later there's an IPO and then someone makes money off it. It should be more of a contractual basis. So what if I upload my pictures for Facebook, but they have a 6-month schedule? After that they're gone. They should be deleted because that's what I want. Why not let me do that? So this year at the Google Android, there's Google I/O, they present all their new features every year, and I distill kind of like, this is, the people in the business understand this problem. If you open your phone, you can regulate your permissions, and this selection of choices here is getting richer and richer. You can control more and more what permissions apps can go through. My prediction and what I'm aspiring to is that in the future what we're doing is we will be regulating our device to access much more intimate aspects of our life. So I'll decide. I want control over my mobile phone to decide whether it should access my dreams, or it should access what I smell, whether it should access my body clock. But it's in my control to decide whether that detailed access to my personal information should happen or not. This is a very complicated idea. I think I probably confused you to no end. So I tried to compress it in 8 minutes, but it's very difficult. So I made this one slide that I think tries to distill the idea, but actually I really encourage you to buy this amazing book and read the real thing. So basically, advertising requires independent decisions to buy, sell, and make with imperfect information. So as long as there's advertising, we are all still independent agents. It's an awful thing, we all hate it, but as long as there's advertising, you can choose product A and product B. Therefore, you're crafting your own future. Therefore, you're not subject to some big AI that's going to control your life and go nuts and whatever. So you can be comforted as long as there's advertising, unless there's the AI that's creating it to distract you, which is also possible. Information wants to be free, and that's fluid, and because it wants to have maximum value, wants to go out there. But at the same time, there is a granular choice we can apply to the information we own. And we can make much more detailed contracts than we're making today in terms of what like intimate aspects of who we are with entities. What I'm talking about someday in the future, we may be talking about, let's say, uploading a brain. So let's say I uploaded my brain to my phone. Now, and let's say my phone runs a bit quicker than I do. Why would I ever upload my brain to a phone that's faster than me if I don't have control over it? So my point here is that we have to really think about the balance between the information that we're giving the systems and the control we have on the information that we're giving. So I think whether by policing, it could just be illegal. It's illegal for you to give away, some detailed aspects of your personal information and for them to use it certain ways, Or disintermediation. What if, like, I had a certain country somewhere allow me to be citizen of it and I could have another identity or something like that, and then I could then be multiple different people and different services, and so they don't really know who the main me is. But basically, in the end, I think it's really critical going forward, and this is sort of my aspiring, I think, one of our kind of aspiring future, is that we own the information we embody. So we own our own mind. We don't let other people use our own mind. And most important than that is that we have to have the right to have valuable ideas. That means, valuable means there's a market for them. And that we have them valuable ideas means that I haven't uploaded them, because then something else is having them, no longer me, if that makes sense. So basically, yeah, it's a complex picture I'm trying to pick. But basically, when you look at these futures that I think we should aspire to, this is the kind of future I would like us to kind of think about going towards. You see there's a spaceship, which is an enabling technology, but you also see people here who have used it to get here. They couldn't have gotten there otherwise. But they're not subject to the spaceship. They're not working for the spaceship in a way. And I think this is the kind of compromise that we should be trying to look for in using our tools. And this is the best I could do in terms of explaining this complex idea, but I'd love it if you have questions.
So we have time for a few questions for Yates or for Dean on any of the points that were raised in the session. So Yes?
Yeah, since you mentioned the mobile platform, do you think that this privacy versus services provided that Apple, Google are starting to take different paths now? Do you think there's a preference?
Well, I think as soon as it starts getting a little bit too useful to do something with my phone, I'm going to be very worried about it. And I think we're getting to the point where just the exponentials running into it. The technology is so effective that it scares us slightly. So I'm like, why would I give it all my film preferences? Because maybe someday they'll use it for something totally unrelated. A good example is the Google I/O presentation of their photo gallery software, which automatically figures out your network of friends. Now, I think, okay, that's kind of cool because I can see who my friends are, but then how will that be used 5 years from now? What is the concept? I want to enter an agreement that's a bit different with respect to that information. I would like to say that that network information of friends is only to be used for just presentation to me. So I think it's the commercial reality will sort this out basically, if we understand this.
I think we're going to have to deal with inferences from a whole lot of other sources just than mobile. People will draw inferences based on how you look, what you're wearing, the fact that we're all in the same room, plus a couple of other data points, gives us a pretty good start for all sorts of inferences.
Everything we're spending our credit card on, everything we look at when we're walking down the street and we can have to be noticed by a camera.
Micro expressions in your face.
That's right, the kind of things which we don't know we're giving off, but betraying our inner secrets.
Yeah, you might want to think twice before getting a PC with a webcam with 120 frames a second, because that will be giving away an awful lot more.
Right, another question?
You talk about the phone being the traditional way to communicate being fragmented into different segments, and now I guess we have Snapchat or we have Facebook, Messenger, and other stuff. Can you see some areas that are being a bit unexplored? New ways of communicating?
Are there things which are unexplored in terms of fragmentation? Yes, is the answer. Come and see me afterwards with a purchase order and we can talk about it.
One question here?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's a more generic question, but around communications, you spoke about personalization and you spoke about media. But for all of the futurists, really, right, the definition of what is better, right? Who's defining what's better, right? Because in terms of media, I mean, I think the starting point is that, hey, if it's personalized, if it's contextual, then it is better for me. But I really challenge that sometimes, because at what point am I giving away too much information when it's not really better, right? And my preferences may change. I don't want to be led through a maze which has been designed based on my past preferences, and I worry that the technology takes us there.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that if at some point there's an exact copy of you on your phone, it will have your own same opinion, and it'll avoid the preferences it's created anything outside there. So my point is, in the end, is just as humans, make sure that probably the last currency we will have with respect to the machine and the automated economy is going to be our personal information. So let's make sure that is maximally leveraged in respect to the AIs that we're dealing with, basically. That's it.
I think that it's not necessarily going to all be retrospective. I think there's going to be a lot of the analytics which are the real time of what you're doing and saying now, or they're even predictive about what will. Let's say it could be a piece of software for salespeople, and it might well be able to say, we think it would be better for you to call your client tomorrow because at the moment he's in the airport and running. So you're not going to close the sale.
Right.
Yeah, and so I think there's some of the retrospectives, yes, but there's going to be where you add in machine learning and various other sort of predictive algorithms. It's not just the past.
Okay, so we're going to dive more into some of these areas in the open discussion at the end. We're going to move on in a bit to that section, but let's give a thanks to